Okay, so here is the Asus ROG 14. This is an open box as well. This was slightly more expensive than the Spectre open box. That was $923, this was $940. So you can see it didn't come in a gigantic box. It's also not sealed though, which is kind of annoying. Although I guess the bag is pretty sealed. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm expecting too much, but this is supposed to be, you know, like new, and the boxes are all really shitty. There's scuff marks on it. So I figured I would just go ahead and try it, you know, before I return it. I'm actually leaning toward picking this up actually as a new model. I'm done with the open boxes. I'm really disappointed in Best Buy's quality control. Again, this one seems to be working, but it's got smudges everywhere. So who knows how long this was in use before it was returned. And I get it. If this was satisfactory, I'd say, okay, it is satisfactory. It's running. This was excellent. I paid extra for like new, not smudges all over it and scratches. And however long the person before this used it before returning it, or if it was a floor model or whatever it was. But like this, you know, they got to do, you can't have just charge more for it and then give the same crap. And I know this was shipped for my customer return because that's where it said UPS said it was sent from. It was from online returns. So the Spectre was actually shipped from the outlet, so that might have been a floor model. Spectre didn't boot at all. This one seems to boot fine, and it may or may not be working perfectly well. So, can you hear that? I don't know what that is, but that's weird. That clicking is definitely not the coil line. Just the fans, which is nuts. But again, the build quality seems pretty good on this. It's really chunky, but it feels really solid as well. And it's obviously not that thick. I can do a comparison between my Dell and the Spectre. I'll show you the Spectre right now. Obviously the Spectre is way thinner. So you can see right there, the Spectre is thinner than half of it. You know, you can't count back there because it's propped up from the screen, which is a feature I don't really like. But you can see right there, like, just the base, which is not propped up, is already the Spectre. The original Spectre is thinner than that still, which is not surprising. The original Spectre still feels much better quality. I do like this RGB on the keyboard, so if you change it, I don't want to screw up the test, so I'm not going to touch it, but this button right here, this Aura button, is how you would change that. I think it's FN Aura, and it'll, like, I had it on red, and then now you can see it's pulsing, which is cool. I like that. A bunch of tiny little LEDs, if you can see. Let me see if I can zoom in. There you go. I guess I can't zoom in. There you go. So like, there's tons of little ones, so it's pretty nice light. I assume those aren't all supposed to be on. I mean, they might be. They might have some that are out, but I see some sort of pattern over there. But either way, then this is a fan control here. When I plugged it in, it automatically went to performance mode, and that was pretty nice. I don't know if if it's limited on battery. It feels very hot, by the way, like just doing literally nothing. It could just be the AMD processor because they love to run hot, but it feels really hot. I'd much rather have the fans go crazy than have it run hot for no reason. But so that's definitely a negative. It's definitely not metal. I don't know what this case is. Definitely plastic of some sort. There is like a metal grate on the bottom. See if I can show it to you. So that's pretty cool that it's a metal grate for the cooling. The one that I purchased was the 6700, and it does not have the animatrix or whatever they call it screen on the back. I don't really care. You can see it right here. It's just blank. There's some smudges right there. So, and I, to be honest, like I don't really get it, because what do you do to make your laptop dirty? You just, I don't know why. Why do you have dirty hands? Why are you dealing with it? I know it's a white laptop, is going to show it. The other one, the Spectre, had smudges too. It's like, who the heck is buying these laptops that's just making super smudges, but and then returning them, right away. But yeah, the thing I don't like right now so far, it's already noticeable, is it's not a touchscreen. I know obviously that's not like a surprise. I knew it wasn't. That's why I was kind of like wanting to go with the Spectre to begin with, because I love the touchscreen feature just for quick, easy like scrolling, especially on a laptop this size, which is small. The Spectre was 16 inches, so it may not have even been that useful because it's further away, and you're not really, but something small like this that you can definitely hold with one hand, it would be, it's nice. If you're holding it with one hand, it's much easier to navigate using the touchscreen. So, but the screen itself looks very nice, very bright. And I don't even know if this is on full brightness, but very bright. You can see it's kind of crushing these benchmarks. We'll pop it up and see. I honestly think my 6900 XT probably got like, I don't know, 300 or 400 on that one, I would guess. But obviously a much bigger card with much more power draw and better cooling. But we'll have to see what this ends up being for its score. Maybe compare it to the Dell with the integrated graphics. I would have loved to run the Spectre, which had the Intel Z graphics, but it wouldn't boot. So that's what happened with that one. I mean, that's an open box, excellent, wouldn't boot. So there you go. Another bad mark for Best Buy. I made a video on that, but I'm not going to bother posting it because it's not worth your time. But I would have liked to do that, because this is supposed to get a pass mark. The graphics card in this, I believe, of 14,000. The Intel Iris Z is supposed to be like 3,000, so much worse. And then I'm sure my Dell over there, with the Vega 10 or Vega 8 or whatever it is, I'm sure that's worse. No, maybe not. It might be around that. Because Intel integrated graphics kind of suck. It might be probably 2,500 or something like that. The processor on this, the pass mark, is supposed to be, I think, if I remember, it's supposed to be 22,000. It is the 6900 HS. I don't really know. I don't remember. I'm sure we can get to it in the screen, but and the Spectre was supposed to be 26,000, so it's supposed to be better with the Spectre on the processor. This is DDR5 RAM. The Spectre had DDR4, so this is better RAM, 1 terabyte versus 512 for the Spectre. I mean, this is actually going pretty well. So, I mean, I may just go right now and order this as a or order this new for $1,000. This was $940, $60 more, $70 with tax. I might just take it, because this is pretty dang. This is crushing these benchmarks, at least visually. I mean, I think you're going to get much higher frame rates on a dedicated card. Like, I mean, this does have one, but on a desktop card, certainly like my 6900 or a 3080 or a 4080 or a 4090 or whatever you want to look at. But all I was looking for with this gaming laptop, if it's a gaming laptop, is to be able to play those games. So I just want to be able to play Rocket League and Fortnite and maybe Horizon 5 passively. I watched a video where somebody was testing the Spectre, or maybe not the Spectre exactly, but the graphics, the onboard graphics that it had, and everything looked pretty hilarious. So definitely not something that you can play games on. There were like one tree every 10 miles in Horizon 5, and the cars looked like they were from the Xbox original Xbox. That's how bad the graphics were. And I can attest to that. I mean, the integrated graphics on the Dell is not very good either. I play Roller Coaster Tycoon and Command and Conquer. those run flawlessly. And then I have played Warzone, which ran very low settings, and Rocket League runs on medium to high settings, but it doesn't feel quite right. I never tried anything past either of those two games. But we'll have to pop up with those benchmarks, see what they are. I'll have to go refer to the video because I don't actually know where they are anymore for the Dell, and I'll see if I can compare the two of them and see if it's that much better. I mean, obviously the Dell's Ryzen 7 5700U was like a pass mark of 17,000, I think, and this, like I said, should be 22,000. Although the RAM on this should be very good. If it's DDR5, it should be much faster than the DDR4 that's on the Spectre or the Dell. And then obviously we're not even going to bother comparing it to my ancient Spectre because that's just terrible performance-wise. Although it served me well, it's very portable. Let's see how this turns out. Okay, so here's the pass mark for the G14, the Asus ROG G14. So you can see CPU mark 24/7, better than I expected. The graphics 13,889, slightly worse than I expected. I expected around 14.4. Memory mark seems surprisingly low, but maybe not. Disk mark took a while to run, but it ended up doing. It ended up coming up with a pretty good score. And let me show you what we had for the Dell. I'm looking at it right now. So this seemed a little bit worse than I expected. So this is what we had on the Dell. Obviously, this is just showing it on my desktop from the YouTube video. You see right there. So we had a overall of 4760, and that's way worse than 5952. I expected a little better of a gap because of the graphics. I mean, the graphics are worlds different, but so CPU of this is about 17,000, like I said. So much better on the Asus ROG or ROG, whatever you want to call it, Republic of Gamers. I call it the ROG. The graphics mark, the 2D graphics are better, so 679 versus 657. And then over here we have the 3D, which is 2307, so that's pretty good. Like I said, the Intel Z of the 12th gen, top line 12th gen, is was supposed to be only 2800, 3000. So to be that close, being 2 years older and a more budget processor, is pretty impressive for the AMD right there. And then the memory mark here is 2496. I expected a little more considering that it is DDR4 to DDR5, 2681 on the ROG. And the disk mark is worlds better, which is very surprising to me. Or I should say, it's surprising to me how good some of these things run, and yet it's still only a 68th percentile test. This was 62nd percentile. It seems a lot worse. And I would bet if I ran the Inspiron now, I bet it would drop significantly, because this was 2 years ago. They hadn't even had the Ryzen 6000 series yet, and they didn't have the Intel 12 or 13, so that doesn't surprise me as much. But so that's the comparison between the two, between the Dell and this Asus ROG G14. I don't know. Let me see if I can pull up my desktops, and we'll see what that ended up being. Okay, so here's the pass mark from the desktop build that I did. I have since added another 32 gigabytes of RAM. I don't know if that makes a difference. Probably not. But back when I did build this, it had a pass mark of 10,217 with a CPU mark of, I don't know if you can even read this, 41,811. So that's quite a bit more. It had a 2D mark of 1320, so that's double. It had a 3D mark of 31,480, so that's quite a bit more. As was expected, I honestly didn't even remember that my graphics card did that well. And I believe the new graphics card did even better, because I actually, this is done with a gigabyte 6900 XT, and I had since switched to a MSI Gaming X Trio 6900 XT because the Gigabyte stopped working. So it may be a little bit higher, but memory mark 34,051 or 3451, sorry, which is surprising because that is 3200 megahertz. I'm a little bit surprised that this is worse, except there's half the RAM, because this was like I said, this was when it was 32 gigs versus this is only 16 right now. And then now it's 64, so maybe it does matter. And the disk mark is a little bit surprising as well. This was the best SSD that you could buy at the time, so I'm not that surprised how well it did. I'm surprised that this one, a year newer, is not better, but then compare that to the Dell and it's much better. Doesn't really matter. I mean, either of these are going to be fine with SSDs because, versus that. But there you have it. I don't know what that says for percentile. Let me see if I can skip ahead of it. You can see that the disk mark is 99th percentile. Yeah, there you go. So it's 99th percentile. so the gaming computer was pretty good when I built it, so that's not surprising, I guess. But that makes me feel better. But so this is pretty good. The ROG G14, like I said, better than the Dell, which has the integrated graphics and a worse processor. So I'm pretty pumped about that. I really wish that this had been a better. I really wish that this had been a better open box in terms of not smudged. And it's not even necessarily the smudges, although that is an impact. It's that I just don't want to buy it. I don't want a used laptop, and I think you're going to have to use this for solid weeks before you get smudges on it. And I don't want to have somebody's hand-me-downs when I'm paying for a new laptop. So I expected it to be literally a damaged box or a store return, an immediate store return. I will say, though, Best Buy definitely just took that Spectre that I returned yesterday and put it right back on the same price as an open box excellent, even though I told them it wouldn't boot. So they probably turned it on. So I got to the setup page and then was like, okay, it boots. Well, it didn't get past the setup page. It froze. So as I had a video that showed that. So I feel bad for anybody who picks it up from that local Best Buy, but I guess that's what just happens here. It's probably what happened to me as well. Can we see the specs here for the computer info? Here we go. System information. So it's a 6900HS. So it's a Ryzen 9. That's a pretty good processor. 8 core, 16 thread. That's pretty slow for, I think you can go faster than that. Total physical is 15. Available physical is 11. I would have expected that it had more than that. Look at this. 2 different brands. The Dell wasn't even that bad, but every Dell I got, as I saw in the video, every Dell I got was a different brand, so you definitely can't rely on that. But I don't know if I've ever seen the same laptop have 2 different brands of memory sticks. That's pretty really bad in my opinion. It's a Micron SSD. I guarantee you this is totally different on everything you buy, just like the Dell. They only have to meet the specs. They don't have to give you the same drive. And here's the Radeon RX6700s. I don't know why it shows 2, but oh, this is the onboard graphics. I forgot about that. This does have onboard graphics as well. Would be interesting to test that to see what we get. So CPU 62 degrees C. That's pretty hot, but I think that if this is like the desktop, it'll max out at 90, which I doubt it does. I doubt it will max out there. Probably max out lower before it thermal throttles. But yeah, so I mean that's a pretty basic test for the ROG, and I think that like I said, the screen is fantastic. I like how rigid it is. There's no flex in holding this, which is good. It's a pretty small laptop. It's quite heavy, and I'm trying this whole testing. You know, can I use the touchpad when I'm holding the bottom? And the answer is yes. I can't press it from the bottom, which is nice. I believe the battery is beneath this. I think the battery is beneath this, which is a really good way to add rigidity under the touchpad. There is a little bit of deck flex here. I think it's because it's propped up, though. I will say the heat is real. This is hot. And it's the same situation as the Dell, where it comes right out the top. And I don't know why they started doing this. I really don't understand it. I don't understand who asked for this kickstand prop-up thing unless they really need to get that air under there, which I guess I can understand that. But you have vents on the side. Just use the vents on the side. You don't need to spit it out the screen and then make the user hot. I mean, it just doesn't, does not compute. But I wonder if there's any other features here. So you can see here, again, it's FN Turbo. Well, I probably should have done it in Turbo. I didn't even know that was a thing. I saw performance. Maybe I'll run this again in Turbo. Here's your aura. So we have rainbow, static, breathing, which is pretty cool. That might have been what we had it on. Strobing, don't like that. Oops. It was color cycle was what we had it on before, obviously. So I like breathing. That's my favorite one. Kind of goes, in and out. There must be a way to change that. The color. Oh, I hate Windows 11. And I was just trying to do a touchscreen on it because I'm used to touchscreen by now. I really do hate Windows 11. I think it's a bad scene. So I just wanted to do a little closing. I did run the Passmark again with turbo mode. It actually got worse. Overall, I think the processor went up a little bit, but everything else got worse slightly. So didn't really make a difference there. The laptop pulses when it sleeps and the lid is open. I'm not sure if that's a notification or whatever, like the keyboard does. It's kind of annoying. I'm still considering if I do want to buy it new, not open box. I actually ordered one and it's ready for pickup, but I'm trying to see if there's a better deal. I am really interested in the Spectre. If I could find one new with that 12700 for around the same price, for $1,000, that would be great. It would be terrible at games, but I don't know. The build quality, the portability, the ticking fan that I saw in the open box Asus ROG is probably why the person returned it. But it makes me a little nervous that a new laptop would have that issue. And then the other thing I did try Fortnite on it. And it automatically put it into Epic graphics, and it ran. I didn't notice much stuttering at all. I would probably, if I were doing it, I'd run it in performance mode, which is how I run it on my desktop anyways, because it looks like a cartoon, so why would I care what it looks like graphically? But it did run it. I would imagine it runs Rocket League fine. And by run it, I mean it was getting around 60 frames per second, which was the cap in Epic mode at the full graphic resolution, so whatever it is, 1600, not 1080. I was using a touchpad and keyboard just because I wanted to try to see if it would run it, so that was not an awesome experience. I don't know if the touchpad is just, if that's the way the game works, or if the touchpad doesn't function under load or gaming, but just to steer the person, to turn the person, you had to keep clicking it and then dragging it, and then it would work for 2 seconds, and then it would stop working. Again, I don't know if that might be the way the game is set to use a trackpad. I didn't check any of the controls, but that's just a thing to note. I would never use a trackpad when gaming because you'd be hopeless. But that is something to note, and obviously it does get extremely hot. But again, it's not that surprising when you consider the performance of the laptop. I mean, it definitely ran the game well. I wanted to try Forza Horizon 5, but I decided I didn't want to download 120 gigabytes just to test it when I was returning it. So if I do get it new, I will upload a test of those as well, and check to see if any of the interiors are different, like they were on this open box, you know, 2 different manufacturers of RAM. So I'll see if that's the case as well. But yeah, it's not a bad laptop from what I can tell, aside from that fan clicking speed, that fan clicking sound, and which was very weird. And then also the heat. The heat is those are the 2 negatives that I've found so far. It gets really hot, like really hot, under gaming or even under, you know, any sort of heavy load. Or you can have the fans go very loud, and that does cool it, but by default it gets pretty hot. And then the other one is that fan clicking noise. But for $1,000, I don't think there's anything better you can get, so might be worth it. Alright, well, I hope it was helpful, and if it wasn't, I apologize.